jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste and welcome to the continuation of this series on talks on mind management techniques. We will continue from where we ended a fortnight back, and if you recall, I had given you something to think about. I had given a little riddle, and let me just recap that, and I hope that we have the same answer. We had said that a professor in a university one day came in front of the class and put a few things on the table in front. He brought out a big empty glass jar, which he asked the students what it was, and everyone said that's an empty jar. Then he brought out a bag of pebbles and he filled that, or stones rather, big stones, and he filled that, put them in the jar until he could put no more. And he asked the students, what did they see? And they say, it's a jar full of stones. Then the professor again took out another bag made of smaller stones, pebbles, and he filled that in, shook them, and he asked the students, and they said it's a jar full of stones and pebbles. And then the professor again took out another bag with some fine gravel, and he filled it again. Then he took out a bag of sand and he filled it there. And by that time, all the students were a little careful when they were using the word full. And finally, he took out a glass of water, bottle of water, and poured into it. And then he asked them all, so what do you think is the lesson that I'm trying to teach? And some students who were watching and following how at every step the professor could put some more items into it to fill those smaller gaps that were there. So they said, oh, this is about time management, that if we plan our time properly, then there's always so much more we can do by fitting into the time and space that we have. The professor said, no, that is not what I have been trying to get across to you. So I left it there and asked you to think, what was the message that the professor was trying to get across? The message that the professor was trying to get across was that if he had tried to do the whole process in a reverse way, put in the water, then put in the sand, after filling it with sand, he would not have been able to get any further. Forget about getting the big rocks inside their stones in there. So what he was trying to say is that we have to have the right priority in life. If we say this life is the jar, empty jar, between birth and death, in which we can achieve so many things. And if we prioritize by putting the most important things first, then other smaller things, less significant things can come in. However, if we fill the whole life with small, trivial, insignificant things, then we find that the more important things do not have any space in our life. So, it's good to work out what is the highest priority of life. What's the real main purpose and objective of life? And the great teachers, men of enlightenment, say that the real purpose of life, the ultimate purpose of life, not only this life but many, many lifetimes for which we come, is self-realization, self-knowledge. That is the most important thing. So these would be the real stones in our life. We have to put those things first. We have to prioritize them. Then other things will come by which we earn our food, clothing and shelter and have enjoyments of this life. But if we put it in the other way, in the reverse order, then you'll find that we are busy with so many things throughout our lifetime, and when you become old, and then suddenly we realize that, okay, we are going to depart from this world, and the real thing that we were supposed to do has not been done. By that time it is too late. So it's good to reflect now and then about why we are here, what's the purpose of this human life. In the earlier sessions we have been talking about the nature of this self, the real man. That we are a human being, a physical being, and a mental being, an emotional being. That doesn't require anyone to tell us that, because that's our everyday experience. We try to bring another idea, another dimension of our existence, the Atman nature, through these discussions. Many people would not have had that knowledge or understanding of themselves. We normally think we're a physical being, a mental, emotional being, and there's a sense of I. Beyond that, we do not know. That knowledge is not given to us in our education system as to what we really are, where do we come from, where we are going, and who we are. This incomplete knowledge imparted to us through our education system is a major drawback. And we find that even in the most accomplished people, educated people, that problem is still there. In the Bhagavad Gita we see Arjuna also had that same problem. While he was a great warrior, highly accomplished, but when he was confronted with this extreme situation where he had to fight this battle, then all his knowledge was found to be insufficient. And Sri Krishna, in the first stage, introduced to him the idea of the Atman in its nature, and then taught him how to be established in that knowledge and then discharge his responsibilities and duties. And if we can educate ourselves in this way and then discharge the responsibilities and duties that come in our life, we'll find that we'll be standing on a more solid ground, not on the shaky ground where everything is changing every time, where things are not in our control. So, today we would like to discuss how this idea or this knowledge, even the conceptual knowledge of ourselves as a consciousness, as a living being, can empower us. That's the word, self-empowerment. Not being empowered by things outside, but self-empowerment from within. That knowledge can give us that strength, whatever we require to face our challenges that life will throw at us, and also to give us that energy and resources by which we can accomplish even more in life. So, knowledge is power. Vedanta is the knowledge of our true self. That should also empower us. If we have studied the Bhagavad Gita, read the Upanishads, but if that awakening has not taken place and we don't feel ourselves any better, any different from the previous state when we did not know of ourselves, that means that knowledge has not been assimilated. It has not become alive and active and fruitful in our life. It's some ideas that have been stored, and you can refer to us, but that in your thought process, but it is not a living idea to us. How do we energize ourselves with that knowledge to face all the problems in our life, so to say? So, when the light of knowledge comes, the darkness of ignorance will automatically disappear. Swami Vivekananda says, let the lion of Vedanta roar, and the foxes will fly away. So, that awakening, that we feel that energy, that the drooping shoulders will rise up, that we see things in the proper light, that when the darkness disappears, then the fear of the ghost also goes away. We see things in the proper way. That is what Vedanta will do for us if it is properly understood and assimilated. What it does is it deifies the whole world, deification of the world. What it means is that which appears to us as a material world, physical world, human beings, people and all that, behind that is a divine principle. We are not aware of the divine principle, we see the outside facade, the superficial thing. And as such we react to that. Our reaction is always to whatever we conceive to be real. If we think this world is real, then we will react to it. But if we think this world is only an appearance and there's a reality behind it, then we'll react to that reality. Vedanta wants to bring about this transformation of how we conceive of ourselves. What is our conception of who we are? And our conception of God is linked with our conception of ourselves also. So, for example, let us see, how does this knowledge of Vedanta empower us to face or understand or confront one of the problems that everyone is always interested about and all of us will have to face, death itself. It's a topic that many people don't want to talk about. Many people do not know or have a fear to it, because suddenly there will be this event in life. Whether it's a natural death when you go to bed and don't get up, or it could be a virus, or it could be an accident, whatever, but it will simply disturb and unsettle all that I have acquired and worked hard to acquire. And even this body will also go. Who we will be, where we will be, even that is not known. So this is a question that haunts most people's mind. And in the Kathopanishad, Nachiketa also, when he had the opportunity to meet Yamaraj and the king of death, so to say, he asked him the same question. When people die, some say he is, others say he is not. Astiti eke, some people say something remains. Nayam astiti cheke, others say nothing remains. You please tell me what is the truth. So how does Vedantic knowledge empower us to understand it? Knowledge is power. Now, in the framework that we have been discussing over the last so many weeks, we introduced the idea of the self as the Atman. We said that here is this physical body. Behind this physical body is the mental body, where our thoughts and ideas and our samskaras, whatever we have learned, experienced, and the results of our previous actions called our prarabdha and everything are stored in there. Beyond that, we say there is even finer, the knowledge body, where the buddhi or the I sense is there. But beyond that, we are bodiless. That Atman is the fundamental substratum of our being, so to say. The rest is becoming. Being is the Atman, the manifestation of it is becoming. So, the sages who have realized the truth say, this Atman is something very, very profound, and they try to give various types of adjectives to explain. It is eternal, it is immortal, it is ever free, it is infinite knowledge, infinite existence, infinite bliss, is the source of all beauty, all purity, and all those things as far as human language can express, they have tried to explain. And they say that fundamentally that is what we really are, that is our true nature, eternal nature. We never drift, we lose that, but we forget that. How does that forgetfulness comes? Well, we become embodied. Embodiment means putting this layer after layer after layer. So the first layer that we put on is the causal body. Then is the subtle body. The subtle body is the mental body, you can say. And finally, the gross body that we are all aware of. In this gross body are these five senses, jnana indriyas, through which we experience this world. We have these organs of action through which we participate in various activities, and man is busy mostly at this gross body level, thinking I am an embodied being. This is my reality. Somehow that true nature of the Atman has become, the infinite nature of that Atman has been covered. It has, with every layer of embodiment, the Atman's glory and power became little bit covered more and more and more, until we have come down to this pitiable condition of a human being, where that infinite knowledge has become little sense knowledge. What we see, what we hear, what we think and all that. The infinite bliss of the Atman has been reduced to this sense enjoyments. The infinite freedom of the Atman, unlimitation, is now so much constrained within this body limitations. And in that prison hole of this body, we are trapped, but we think we are free. Deep inside, in our spiritual DNA, so to say, is that idea of our infinite, innate freedom is there, innate knowledge is there, innate bliss is there, and we are trying to manifest that, but we're trying to work it out at a gross physical level, and that's where the problem is there. By its constitution, this whole world is constantly changing, and that which is changing cannot be permanent, and that which is limited cannot be infinite, and that's why we will never succeed in fully manifesting the Atman nature in the human level. So, what happens? We go through this process of recycling. Recycling means being born. When you say we are going through this, really there are two ways of looking at it. When we think that our reality is the body and inside is a mind and inside there is something called a jiva that will come and go, that is one perspective, the ignorant perspective. The more enlightened understanding of things is that we are the Atman, where we put on these layers of bodies. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that at some stage the jiva, just like a person who takes his shirt off, likewise the jiva will take off the gross body off. And then he'll put another one on. And from people who are looking from outside, he says somebody is born, a little baby has come in there, and when that body disintegrates or becomes old and dies, then that person has died, we say. What we say should, in more precise language, should say, the body was born, the body disintegrated, but the physical body. But the subtle body and the causal body still remain. And if the impulse or the desire to come back into this physical world is very strong, that I should come and continue here and live here, that force that the desire will force us to embody ourselves again. Or if our karma, that we have done certain actions which need, every action has got a reaction. As you sow, so you shall reap. That needs to be worked out at the physical level, then we are forced to, even if we do not want to, we will be forced to, Sri Krishna says, to come into this embodied state, the environment where we will be born, the family in which we will be born, the experiences that we will have to go through, the lifespan that we will have, that which will determine how long we are going to live. All those things will be determined by our own samskaras and previous karmas. So, when we do not know, then we think, the fate has written, or destiny has written. Who has written that destiny? Not some other being, God or somebody there. We ourselves are the creators of our own destiny. If we are mindful of our actions, that every action has a consequence and a reaction, and then we have some control over our future lives also. But if we are not, then everything is just going on in the cycle, is an endless loop, so to say, it goes on. Now, when we die, because that's a situation that many people are very much afraid of, because it's the fear of the unknown. So let's explore that from this Vedantic point of view. In sciences where the subject of birth and death is discussed is called eschatology. Vedantic eschatology is different from the traditional way we understand ourselves. Here we say, the Atman is never born, it never dies. It's the permanent reality. That is the ocean. That ocean breaks into waves. You and I are different waves. The surface of the wave has got multiple layers, so to say. And the first manifestation layer is the causal body, then the subtle body and the gross body. The gross body is one we are very much familiar with. We are working through this. When this physical body dies, what remains is the Atman covered with the other two bodies. But if you understand that each level of embodiment curtails the manifestation of the inner divine nature of the Atman, then if we remove the outermost one, the grossest one, you would expect the light will shine out even more. You see, if this is life and there is a certain manifestation of intelligence and knowledge and freedom that we experience, When this gross physical body falls off, then the knowledge, the sense of freedom that is now sort of curtailed by only the causal body and the subtle body will be even more. That means, if this is life, the stage after the event of death will be even a greater manifestation of that knowledge. You are not going to go into darkness, but into more light, so to say. So it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something that, because we do not know or don't have the proper understanding, then we think that this terrible event will happen and I will be, this physical body will go and I will be there in an unknown region and whatever, alone and everything. No. We will be closer to our higher self. Now suppose one could work one's way through even dissolving that subtle body, the mental body, then that light will shine even in greater degree. And so these various levels of existence that are there. Here is this gross world where we are trapped in a physical body. Now if our karma is very good, we have done a lot of good work and all that, and this physical body falls off, then we are living in a subtle body where there's a greater degree of knowledge, a greater degree of bliss. We call that place a heaven. Around us we see everything in greater light, in the sense of joy that we feel in within us, the sense of knowledge that we are expressing, that is more. We are in this God body, so to say. And if that subtle body also is shaken off, then there's only a very fine thin layer of some glass type of sort of envelope that limits the infinite glory of the Atman. And if that also disappears, so to say, then what is without any limitation, without any boundaries, without any constraints, and that absolute freedom without any limitations is what is called mukti. So, in the Vedantic eschatology, the way we look at it is, if we put our anchor or our locus or center of our being in our Atman nature and operate from that level, then the whole thing is transformed. But if we are anchored in the physical level and think there's a little Atman, something there, and when this body dies, something gets out of it and it moves around there and then comes back, that is not the right way to understand it. So Vedanta is that knowledge of Vedanta is empowering in this way how we look and understand and conceive of ourselves. And that brings about a transformation. So a person who understands this intellectually and drives this so deep into his mind will lose or go beyond the fear of death. Death is not something to be afraid of. Actually, if all the three bodies disappear, then only I will be in that disembodied and ever free state. So then his effort becomes how to prevent coming into this body again and again. Not how I want to remain here in a better way. The whole thing is re-engineered. So he says, look, this is a very low level of existence compared to my eternal nature. No matter how long I live, still death will come and take this away. No matter how much we know through our senses and through our intellect, that is very finite, limited knowledge. No matter how much I enjoy through our senses, that is a very small, finite amount of bliss compared to the infinite nature. No matter how much freedom that I express here, that is incomparable to the infinite freedom that is my nature. So everything here is a limitation. And no one can forever live in a state which is separated from one's true nature. We will always have to go back to what we really are. So, once that is understood, then we are very mindful and very alert about the true integrated understanding of who we are, and this time it is anchored in the idea of that we are the Atman, ever free. We might have forgotten it over many, many lifetimes, but that can never be taken away from me also. So that is very, very empowering. It's not that we are a sinner and we are born here and our nature is sinful. No, our nature is that we are eternal and immortal, and the very essence of beauty, purity, goodness. That is our something that cannot be taken ours. That is our true nature, Swabhava. How do we drill that idea deep into our mind? Because a very empowering idea. When problems come in life, every time you remind yourself of that truth of the Atman, then you'll find that the lion inside wakes up and sheds off all these small problems that pale away into insignificance. If we don't have that knowledge, then what happens is a small problem in this world will be magnified and magnified until it will crush us and we feel we are gone through it. So we have this power of self-empowerment, and that comes through this idea of the knowledge or the knowledge of the Atman or the self of consciousness, because that's where the real strength will come from. So in the Vedantic tradition, we try to drill this idea. We listen to this again and again. We read about this. We think deeply about this. We contemplate on this until this idea becomes alive, so to say. It's only when it becomes alive that it will begin to function for us. Otherwise, it is some information that is stored in our head. So, we've seen how this idea of the nature of the Atman empowers us to transcend the fear of death. Conceptually, at least we have understood this is how the mechanism operates, nothing to fear. But what we want is to have this experientially, anubhuti. Religion is not subscribing to certain faith, belonging to a church or temple, or having a particular label that I belong to this. Those are things we just pick up in the society or community where we are born. Religion is realization of our true nature. We should never settle down and say, these are my beliefs and therefore I am religious. It's not going to save us. Man cannot live on that only. So how do we transform this conceptual understanding of ourselves into a experiential, into a spiritual experience of what we are? For that, we go to the next stage or the final stage, which is sadhana, spiritual disciplines that will bring about that transformation. So if we just stopped with the intellectual understanding, the Gita, reading the Upanishads or the Bible and all those things, then we are educated, not enlightened, so to say. And if the journey stops there, just with the intellectual understanding, we are reading the books, we are listening to the lectures forever, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but we are not meditating, we are not putting those into practice, it's not empowering me and transforming my thoughts, my words and deeds, then you can say it is not, the medicine is not working. So, every spiritual seeker has to, at some state, wake up to that and say, we should not stop, we should go forward. And every now and then one must do an audit of our spiritual journey. Sri Ramakrishna explains this beautiful parable. It's good to remember that. He says, this little parable of the story of the woodcutter. There was this poor man who would go to the forest every day and cut a bundle of firewood and bring it and sell it in the marketplace. One day when he was returning from the forest, he met a brahmachari who said to him, go forward. That evening, that night, this man thought about, why was he telling me to go forward? So the following day, when he went out, he went deeper into the forest, and to his great surprise and joy, he found there was a big sandalwood forest there. And sandalwood is very, very expensive, so he brought out a bundle of sandalwood and sold that and made more money. And every day he went into the same forest, but he always went deeper to the sandalwood forest and became very rich. And he was very thankful to the advice given by the brahmachari. Then one day he said, he asked me to go forward, he did not ask me to stop there. So what did he do? He went further into the forest, and to his great surprise he came across a silver mine. Of course he brought that in, he became very wealthy. And each time he reflected on the teaching of the advice of the brahmachari, he went deeper and he came across some gold mine and diamond mine. So what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to tell us that, yes, most of the time we are anchored in this physical body level, cutting ordinary wood, so to say. If we go deeper into ourselves, we'll find that there are more and more profound dimensions of our being. Ultimately, we come face to face what is our true nature, the Atman nature. This progress, this journey, inward journey of diving deeper into ourselves has to happen. Otherwise, if we just are born in a physical body, live in that, catering to our basic food, clothing and shelter, and then departing from this body, this world, without making any ascension or going little higher, closer to our spiritual self, then we have not really achieved much of what is our ultimate destiny, of the purpose of this human life. So we have to be very mindful of that. No one else will do that for us. We ourselves will have to put our time and effort. And that is why Sri Ramakrishna always said that one must, if some people went to him and listened to his discourses and became interested in the idea of self-realization, they would ask the question, and you will find that many times in the gospel, what is the way? How do I achieve that knowledge? Then he would mention three things. He will talk about satsang, company with people who are spiritually oriented, or if people are not there, books, but keeping company with spiritual thoughts and ideas. Then satsang is very important. He would also pay a lot of emphasis on going into solitude now and then, because this disease of worldliness has become a little chronic, he would say. And you have to take yourself out of that for a sustained period of time. And in that, he would say, if you can go out somewhere for a month, it's very good. That might be too long for many people. He say 1 week, that's also very good. 3 days, even for 1 day, he says. That's how important that it is and how powerful that is, even for 1 day. And when you go out there alone, disconnect yourself, forget yourself, don't carry your family and your phone and everything. That is where you do an internal audit of your life. So to say, where I am in life, how I have reached here, what are my strengths and achievements and all those things. I have understood a little bit of Vedanta and spirituality and what is the ultimate goal of life. And I have not reached there. So the first part of that introspection and reflection is doing a little bit of what we have achieved in this life. Is that are you happy with everything you've got? And you'll find that no, there's still so much to do. And I'm already 60 years old. Now let us assume that I'll live to 80 years old. So second part of it will be like, where would I like to see myself by the time I leave this world? And of course, everyone would like to see themselves very much advanced, at least spiritually, because, monetary wise things, all those things he knows he will have to leave behind and go. So that is a little bit about goal setting, what I would like to achieve. And the third part would be something like, what do I need to do to achieve what I wish to have at the end of this life? What changes I need to bring in my life, in my lifestyle, in my priorities, in how I use my time, because time is very precious now. As you become older, time becomes more important. And how do I utilize that? Health is still good, or responsibilities have been discharged with, so to say. So if we do not do this little bit of introspection and reflection, you will find that the same mundane habitual process will go right till the end. Maybe then at the last moment when we are lying on a bed about to go and said, we read all the books, understood all the Gita Upanishad, but none of that has been realized because I never invested my time and effort into that. Busy with all the things which I am going to leave behind. That is a very pitiable state of mind, and no one will sympathize. There's no one for you to who will listen to you. You don't have a shoulder to cry on because it was our life and we squandered it away, so to say. So it's very, very important to be very, very alert all the time. Like one of the classes I explained to you, like the deer in the forest, this mudra, you see, looks like a little deer. If you look from that side, you will see a deer has got a mouth here and the two ears are there. Okay, it's symbolized of being totally alert at all the time. Like a deer is grazing in the forest, she knows there are dangers around, some tigers and lions might be there, and if she is not alert, one of them might get hold of her and have for the meal. So she is very, very alert. Likewise, we need to be very, very alert. The lions and tigers are already there. Somewhere, death is around there. Somewhere, at any moment, it will tap you on the shoulder and say, let's go. It could be a virus. It could be some accident. It could be something like that. It has happened to a grandfather, it will happen to us sooner or later. How do we maintain a degree of alertness so that we can confront death when death comes without any fear, because we have realized within us something which is deathless? That process is very, very important. No one will do that for us. The husband will not do it for the wife or vice versa. No one will do it. And if we ourselves do not do that for ourselves, then we have done everything for everyone, all around, trying to fix the world, provide for everyone, but not done the most important thing for ourselves. And when we go, everything will be left behind. So now and then we need to do this reality check. And doesn't happen by listening to a lecture or reading a verse. Sometimes you need to just get out of that environment, disconnect and look at the whole thing in a very detached, global way. Okay, so I step back out of life and say, that was the birth, this was the journey, it's a little baby, I grew up and this is where I am. This is where I would like to be in this lifetime. If I don't, again somewhere in the next life I will have to continue there. So if that is to be done, let's get cracking with it, so to say. Let's have a little bit of grip and control over my life. Set that goal and then take the help of the scriptures, whatever guidance that is available. Draw a plan, just like people have a business plan for their businesses and every year they'll audit and see whether they're making some profit or not. Likewise, a spiritual seeker will have a spiritual plan where he will now and then audit and say, am I making that progress or not? Sri Ramakrishna would do that. He would say every day, oh mother, another day has gone and I have not realized the truth. This whole life is futile if I do not have that realization. What that does is it brings a little bit of sincerity and earnestness, vyakulta, injects that energy into the spiritual life. Otherwise we say, yes, so many things we know, that goal is also there, life goes on. We will see sometimes many people say the spiritual life and all this is for people when we become old. Don't waste your time in these things when you are young. And when the body becomes old, mind is not able to grasp concepts, what can you achieve in that life? So that's why that alertness has to be there all the time. Then all this listening to the Gita and Upanishads and Vedanta will be of any value. Knowledge has to become applied in our everyday life. So that idea or the concept of the Atman is a very empowering idea. You'll find that this knowledge is power. Spiritual knowledge is extremely powerful. If we have assimilated that properly, I've used that word assimilated. If we have assimilated that properly, you will feel the strength that should come. Let us explore that idea. Just like we say we eat food, but just eating the food and taking through your mouth into your stomach and feeling that your hunger has gone away, that's not the whole idea. The body then takes over and it breaks down that food, whether it's animal tissue or plant tissue, into proteins and amino acids and vitamins and sugars and all those things. And then through the process of absorption, it takes it whatever is desirable into its blood system. Then what does it do? It transforms, converts some of that into the body tissue, muscle, bones, whatever. That which was in the plant has now become part of your own being. But a part of it is then burnt in the cell, in the mitochondria, those who know a little bit of biology, and transforms that into energy. That energy is available to you and you use it in your everyday activities, whether playing or doing things. So, if we just eat the food, if it's not digested, it runs through the alimentary canal, goes out, that's a waste of eating. If we ate the food and just stored it in the body like a lump of fat, that's all just carrying so much weight around. But if we ate the food and transformed it into energy, and that energy was used for something that you wanted productive in life, then the whole process of eating the food has been justified. Likewise, knowledge is food for the mind. Spiritual knowledge is spiritual food for the mind. So we have to go through that same process in a subtle way, so to say, where we take the knowledge, then we process it, take the information rather, process it and convert it into knowledge, convert that into something that empowers us, and we can feel that strength that's coming from it. If that doesn't happen, we know so much information, but it's not useful for us. So it's not empowering. Spiritual knowledge has to be taken through that same process again. Shravan, collecting it, listening. Manan, digesting it. Nididhyasan, assimilating it so that it becomes part and parcel of our being. And that knowledge becomes a foundation, and we can see its expression in everything. Then and then, reading and studying the scriptures and all those things have been fruitful. And we have to do our own understanding, a review of ourselves, how deep, how far we are able to take that. Otherwise, we'll be very easily caught into these rituals and ceremonies and doctrines and dogmas and festivals and all those things, and think this is religious and I'm a Hindu or I'm a Christian or Muslim and all those things. None of that is going to be, that's just like cutting the little wood. You have to go deeper and deeper and transform that knowledge into a spiritually self-empowering thing. So let us look at that idea. What does it really mean to assimilate that spiritual knowledge at a deeper level? Especially the idea of the Atman nature. Because we all want strength. Swami Vivekananda has said, strength is life, weakness is death. At every field. Those who are strong physically are not affected by problems or challenges outside. It's, for example, even in this situation where this virus is there. If I have a very strong immune system, when the virus comes, like there are so many viruses and bacteria around there, but my immune system is so strong that it doesn't get overpowered by that. But if for any reason that immune system has been compromised because of old age or lifestyle or whatever reason, then a little virus bacteria can come and destroy this body. So strength is life. At the emotional level, you find that some people are very strong emotionally. So little problems and things in life don't unsettle them. Others are very, very weak. And you'll find that very sensitive people. You say a little bit and they lose their balance, they overreact and all those type of things. Very touchy. Okay. And others are there, you might criticize them, you can't unsettle them. They are embedded in their inner strength. So you'll find two types of people there. Those who are very weak inside will develop an external protective shell outside. It's a defense mechanism, naturally. Those who are very strong inside will have a very soft exterior outside. They don't mind you talking to them and commenting them, even criticizing them, they can take it shrugging. It's just like an egg, which is very delicate inside but requires an external protective shell. You break that shell, the egg is destroyed. So they're very, very protective. Such people are there, very vulnerable inside, but outside they'll have a defense mechanism and a mechanism to fight back, like they'll get angry. If you say something, they'll walk out of that place because they feel very, very vulnerable when confronted with new ideas from outside. Those who are very strong within You'll find they're very happy, go lucky, jolly people. You can talk to them, you can comment on them, criticize them. It doesn't touch them. So, inner strength is what you want. And the self-knowledge gives us that inner strength. Otherwise, if that is not there, then we will build all these external shells as a protective barrier and always be fearful. So, what we want is strength. Physical strength, mental strength, intellectual strength, moral strength, and spiritual strength. And where will strength come from? Not from outside. It comes from inside, subjectively. So the application of this Vedanta in this modern age, we can see it can help us in so many levels. Okay. For example, if we want strength, how do we bring that strength? If we say that strength is inside us, how do we manifest it out? Everyone wants to be strong, isn't it? We were talking about this idea of mental health with a group of people because that's a big issue nowadays, especially among youth and all that. Everywhere you will see. And there are all these grown-ups, experts in their various fields are telling we should do this and we should do that and all that. There was a young boy who was sitting there and said, let's stop and ask him. What does he say? A high school student. He said, Swamiji, what you are telling, that our principals and teachers are also telling. Everyone is telling the world is not a bed of roses. It's a harsh place. You need to be tough. You must have resilience. All those nice words. You must be resilient. You must be this. You must be that. But no one is telling me how to become resilient. What's the process by which I will develop that inner strength? And you think about it. Everyone sets the goal for you. They don't give you their journey. They help you to achieve that goal. So it's simple. Let us walk through this. Maybe we will not be able to finish this today, but it's a good idea and something relevant. If we said we wanted to become strong physically, what would you do? Everyone says, oh, I will go and get myself enrolled in some gymnasium. There, all this right equipment is there. Available for various parts of the body to exercise, and we have the instructor who knows the whole science of it, and he'll set up a little program, and I will follow that sincerely. And in time, because I've seen others who went to the gym, they have become strong, I too can become like that. So what we require is exercise. The potential for the muscle that's inside the body is there to develop, but it's exercise that will bring it out. Exercise. Okay. So just having a lot of exercise is not good enough. Every day you go and do without taking good food, you'll probably become more weak than strong. So along with exercise, we require good nutrition, good food. Okay. So we have a little formula. Food, nutritious food, exercise, plus exercise in a systematic way with rest and break. We don't do it every day and overdo it, 10 hours like that. Over time, perseverance and patience in time will bring out these muscles that are hiding inside you. The biceps and triceps and all begin to manifest itself. No one has to come and tell you that you are becoming strong. You can feel it. You're lifting things, heavy things and all that. That everyone knows. How do we make ourselves mentally strong? The same process is there. The food for the mind is knowledge. In our education system, it has been put systematically there for us, so that the right dose is given. Just like for the little baby, you have the Cerelac and baby food, and then you work yourself up so that as the digestive system develops. Likewise, mathematics is taught from class 1 to year 12 or university. But it is graded in a systematic way, just like the instructor in the gymnasium will say you start with 5 kgs, then you will make it to 6 or 10 kgs step by step, otherwise you will do harm to yourself. So the education system has designed and separated all this knowledge into subjects like maths and chemistry and physics and biology, then it has graded them all there, the teachers are there, and that knowledge given in small doses is food for the mind. We process that, we study that, we wrestle with that, and that's why at the end of every chapter in a textbook there is something called exercises. There are even books called exercise books, where you will exercise those mental muscles, so to say, and if you do it with great perseverance and all that, by the end time you come out at the high school or university level, that capacity of the mind to grapple and wrestle with those ideas has become so strong that if something comes, you say, I can lift that up, I can understand that, I can manage that. We had a formula. Food, which is knowledge for the mind, plus exercises. Those students who do the exercises sincerely will learn or master it, brings out the mental muscles to say. We become strong. Complicated situations we can understand. Then comes, so the same formula is working. At the spiritual level, if we want to make ourselves spiritually strong, can we apply that same formula? Yes. What is spiritual food? That knowledge that is given to us through the scriptures, the Gita and the Upanishads and all those. That is food for the soul, so to say. What are the exercises by which we process that and assimilate it? Those are your spiritual disciplines. Your Chappa and meditation and prayerfulness, and if you do that repeatedly, not that one day you are meditating for 5 minutes and then suddenly you expect that you will have enlightenment. If you had that, then there will be yogis walking down the street everywhere. No, you have to work hard on that. Just people are prepared to work for 5 years to get a degree in medicine or engineering. So many hours, late nights, and if you ask them to do a little bit meditation, they say, oh Swamiji, we don't have any time for that. Just not sincere. Okay, you don't get anything free. You can't get these things of this world for that price. Talk about spiritual illumination. It's just saying that we are not serious about it. Those who are serious about it will invest their time. So there we go, spiritual knowledge, spiritual exercises are there, spiritual disciplines, and that awakening of spiritual illumination on realization will come in its own natural way. We will become physically strong, we become intellectually strong, we become spiritually strong. Of course, the discussion was about mental issues. How do we make ourselves emotionally strong? Okay, because that's an area that's not taught at our home, in our school, and that's why people are very, very weak in those areas. Little things unsettle them. It could be somebody who is aspiring to become a doctor, engineer, which requires 95% marks. If he gets 93, he thinks the whole world has collapsed, life has no value in nothing, and suddenly they do something crazy and everything is lost. We taught them everything, but we didn't teach them some life skills by which they can handle successes and failures and all those things. So, this same spiritual knowledge can bring about empower us with that inner strength. But we have to understand where the exercise will come from. And unless we do the exercise, the strength will not manifest. So life itself is a great teacher. Swami Vivekananda says this world is a gymnasium where we come to do exercises to become spiritually strong. So in the gymnasium, it's not going to be a nice good time. You go to the gymnasium and when you come out of it, it's all very painful and stiff and sore and all those things. But we go there again and again because we are not going there to have a good time. We are going there to become strong. So in this world, you'll find life throws many, many exercises for us. Sometimes we embrace them knowing that out of that exercises we become strong. But if we don't understand the idea that strength is the goal, then we try to dodge them and escape them and manage them, sidestep them and all those things, skirt around the exercises, and therefore we don't develop that strength. So how we look at life, what is our perception, can change the whole thing. And if we understand that the purpose of life is self-realization, realizing that the Atman is within me, not as an idea, but it becomes real for me. Right now, this world is real, I experience it. God, do I experience it? No, it's an idea somewhere there. It's not my everyday experience like Sri Ramakrishna or Buddha or Christ experience. Realization means God will be experienced like I'm talking to you, you'll be able to talk to Him, and the world will fade away into a dream type of thing. How does that transformation take place? That would be realization, God realization. Sri Ramakrishna would talk to the Divine Mother, have the conversation with her, ask her for everything. Okay, and he would say, she is present in everything, everywhere. She sees her first and the world as something painted on her. We see the world and have a little bit of idea of something behind it. How do we re-engineer this? So, that would be the journey in the spiritual progress. We will take this discussion from here on and try to work a little bit of its application in the field of developing or strengthening the other two dimensions of our being. We discussed about the physical dimension of our being. We discovered a little bit about the intellectual and spiritual. The other two, the moral and ethical dimension of what we are and the emotional aspect of our being. If we can holistically exercise ourselves at all levels, then our strength and wellness would be a fully integrated being. In Hindi, when somebody meets you and asks you about your welfare, are you keeping well or something, they will say, "Aapka swasth kaise? Aap swasth hai ki nahi? Aap swasth hai." Swastha, very profound meaning and sense. Swa means yourself, real self, Atman nature. Stha means to be established in. The question is, are you established in your true Atman nature? But many people will think that the body, so that if they're feeling physically good, they say, yes, I'm healthy. We're talking about not only the physical health, but integrated wellness, so to say. That is the WHO definition of health: physical, emotional, intellectual, moral, and spiritual. All that should be within the framework of wellness, and at the core of it is the spiritual powerhouse, from which we draw that spiritual energy, whether it's knowledge or beauty or purity or happiness or strength or knowledge, whatever you want. If we are not connected to that source, then we get a little bit of energy. It's like an ordinary battery that you buy. After some time it drains out of power, it's discharged. But if you are connected to the power source, like, to the 240 volt, then we can draw as much as you want. How do we connect ourselves to that fountainhead of spiritual power that is within us, which can again manifest at all these levels, from which the energy will nourish and keep us fully energized at the intellectual level, at the emotional level, at the moral level, and even the physical level. So the process has to be re-engineered, so to say. And spiritual life is about making that connection and bringing about that manifestation of that power from within. Not from physical to spiritual, but from spiritual to physical. Meditation, Chappa, Praya are the exercises for the spiritual growth and development. But the other two dimensions of our moral and ethical being, dimensions of our being at the moral and ethical level and the emotional level, where most people are found to be wanting, because our education system does not empower us or train us systematically in that, but still needs to be developed. We will discuss that a little bit more in next Sunday's class. The next Sunday's class would again be at 11 normal time on Sunday. Until then, reflect on these teachings, and I hope this try to digest them, try to assimilate them, try to apply them and put into practice, and try to feel that strength that should come from this Atman, knowledge of the Atman from within. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.